Witness me! Showtime, folks. Alright guys, so I just got out of watching Furiosa Mad Max Saga. Now going into the movie, I'll be honest, I wasn't giving it much of a fair shake, as you would say, I guess. It's just one of those things where I saw that they're making a spin-off of Mad Max Fury Road, and they were just gonna go backwards and give us the backstory of Furiosa. And honestly, I thought it was just gonna be a money grab. That was my negative Nancy thoughts. Sorry if your name is Nancy, by the way. But it was just my negative thoughts going into the movie. Just thinking, okay, we're gonna kind of milk this franchise for what it's worth, and we're gonna try to see if we could get people to come in here and do that. And I was wrong. I love to be wrong about movies, because if I'm wrong about movies, that means that something shocking, something awesome has come out when I wasn't expecting it to. And I think George Miller did an exceptional job when it comes to Furiosa. Now, there's a couple of things we'll get into that maybe kind of threw it off for me, but this movie was actually really, really enjoyable. So starting off with the plot, the plot revolves around Furiosa, who is Anya Taylor-Joy, previously played by Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road. This follows a younger Furiosa trying to get back to her homeland after she's taken away by Chris Hemsworth's character, and the chaos that ensues because of that. Now, I like to speak in vague terms because I try to avoid spoilers. But while we're on the topic, here pretty soon we're going to start doing a few more spoiler talks, just so we could get more into the details of when it comes to movies. But that's at a later date, so you don't have to worry about spoilers quite yet. And we'll give you a warning, even when we do start talking about spoilers. I'm not the kind of person that likes to spoil it. But I digress. That was a long digression. This movie follows Anya Taylor-Joy's Furiosa in her quest, right? So, getting into the pros of this film, and I think it's very, very important to emphasize the visuals in this movie. Now, if you're a fan of Mad Max Fury Road, you're going to be a fan of Furiosa. The visuals are beautiful. The use of color is exceptional. Primarily, there's one sequence where they kind of demonstrate the fall and the loss of paradise. It's a paradise lost from the point of view of Furiosa, where she takes an apple. She literally takes an apple from a tree before she's taking into this wasteland that is the Fury Road atmosphere, as you would call it. And it's actually quite beautiful the way it's shot. I also like some of the camera work that they throw into this movie. It really keeps you immersed into the action. As far as if you're a viewer in the movie, you're just really engaged because of the quick zoom-ins and the panning and the single shots of, you know, certain characters as they're doing the action sequence. And I think that is done exceptionally well in Furiosa. Another thing I really enjoyed was the cinematography. Like I said, this is a separate pro, although it goes along with the visuals. The cinematography is done exceptionally well, and it keeps the viewer engaged, and it was something that I was really happy with. Like, I felt every single moment of intensity in this film, and it didn't leave me wanting more. It kept me at the edge of my seat, and it kept me really engaged. And that's something that you're always hoping for when it comes to these kinds of action movies. You don't want to be sitting there bored. You don't want to be sitting there contemplating what could happen or what this and that. You just want to be engaged, and I was engaged. It's one of those things where this movie did it very well, and I was just engaged the entire time. Another pro I have, and this probably would have gone without saying, but I just want to go ahead and say it anyway, is the performances in this film. Now, upon seeing the trailer, I thought they were just throwing a prosthetic nose on Chris Hemsworth and saying, go, you know, and I thought he was going to do his best to try to be an over-the-top bad guy, but I believed Chris Hemsworth as a villain. When Chris Hemsworth was on this screen as Dementis, you were ready to see what he was going to do next, and it was never overbearing. I really think that he played the character well. He played the villain role very well, and I was just very surprised. Anya Taylor-Joy is somebody that I have been kind of mixed reception on, to be completely honest. I loved her in Split. I thought she did an exceptional job in Split, but after that, I felt it was kind of hit or miss with her roles. And in Furiosa, like I said, when I went in, I was a little upset that they didn't just bring back Charlize Theron, but Anya Taylor-Joy does a very, very good job in this film as far as like the physical acting goes, because she doesn't have a lot to say. She doesn't have that much dialogue, to be fair. But when she does speak, it's important, and you can feel the weight of the words when she speaks. And I think Anya Taylor-Joy did an exceptional job. But somebody that I think really is probably going to fly under the radar just because of the names involved in this movie is the child actor that plays the young Furiosa, going by the name of Alila. Sorry, Alila, if you somehow end up watching this. Brown. Now, she does an exceptional job of playing a young Furiosa. I was engaged with her character, and I was just, at the edge of my seat hoping that she was going to get through it. Even though I know she is, because Mad Max Fury Road exists. It's just very impressive to see that, and she has a very striking resemblance to Anya Taylor-Joy. So that little transition from child to adult, it worked, and it was done well. But you need to mention the performance when you're talking about Furiosa as a film. Another thing I really enjoyed was the pacing of this movie. Now, this could be a hit or miss. It might be considered a mixed category, but I think the pacing was done very well. They separate the movie into chapters. It is quite long, but I think the pacing of the film keeps you engaged throughout everything. Even in the most like basic of things that are going on in the film. For example, if they're like building up a truck or something like that, it's done with intensity, it's done with purpose, and you're engaged as an audience member. And that's the thing that is the most important, I think, whenever it comes to a film being enjoyable or not, is whether or not the audience is engaged with what's going on the screen. And I think in this situation it was, and it was done very well. Last thing that I do want to mention, and it's probably something to be expected when it comes to movies like Mad Max, or a Mad Max Saga film, is the costume design. I found myself really intrigued with different costumes that were used by different characters, and it just depends on what they run within that world of Mad Max. You know what I mean? So, for example, not to get too specific about things, but there's a bullet maker, for example, in the film, and he wears a shaw just made of bullets, and it looks very, very impressive. Then you also have Immortal Joe with his classic look. You have Chris Hemsworth's Dementis with his new look, and a couple of his lieutenants and side characters having different masks that all look very, very cool. That's something that I thought stood out and is something unique to Mad Max that works for this film and was a major pro for me. Now, getting on to what I would consider probably one of the only cons with this film, and it was a worry of mine going into this. So the film is titled Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. It's a Mad Max story. And I remember going into this film, and I talked to my editor about it beforehand, and saying, I want to make sure that they are focused on one or the other. But since they titled it Furiosa, I want to know everything about Furiosa. This movie should be centered around Furiosa if it's not going to be centered around Max, right? And I feel like there's a point in this film, and this is a nitpick. This movie is done exceptionally well. I loved every aspect of this movie, but for one of these things, and it's that at some point the movie starts to teeter-totter on whether or not it's going to tell a Mad Max story or it's telling Furiosa's story. And the fact that it could not, at least me as a viewer, make me believe that we were solely following Furiosa's story for at least a small portion of the movie, or a good chunk, maybe a third, that's enough for me to be like, okay, so this is a Mad Max movie, and the character of Furiosa just happens to be a big portion of this, or at least a portion of this. I wish they had found the balance a little bit better there. But that's nothing really too major with this film, because I think everything else is balanced pretty well. Everything else is great. Going back to my pros list, you can see that most of it is very enjoyable. It's just that odd little balance there. But to people that are just in it for, you know, the action sequences, the action-packed stuff that you're bound to get with the Mad Max franchise, it's there. And lastly, another con, and this is just a little con. This might be more so for like the casual moviegoer. This film is on the longer side. So this, like I said before in my pro section, the pacing is done very well. It doesn't ever feel too long, but it is separated by chapters, and each chapter is about half an hour. So just know going into the film that you're going to be in there for at least, I think it's 2.5 hours, the runtime. It's not a con in my book, but it is something that should be noted for the casual moviegoer who may not like those longer movie experiences. But as far as that goes, guys, like I said, my general thoughts going into it was this might be just a cash grab. They're just going to take the Mad Max name and just make some spin-off with it. And it was not that. It introduced or it brought back a character from Mad Max Fury Road and gave her a more fleshed out backstory. I definitely think this is a one and done. This is enough to give you a character development that leads to Mad Max Fury Road. You even have a couple of little Easter eggs that are thrown in there for Mad Max fans. I think it's done very well. It's way better than I expected it was going to be, and it's going to reflect in my score. So, while we're on the topic, might as well give it a score. Witness my score. Guys, Furiosa is a 4 out of 5. Are you not entertained? And the reason I have to ask you why you wouldn't be entertained with this film is the pacing. It's the action sequences. It is the poor war boys that... Just they go through so many of them in these Mad Max films. I mean, those guys are just cannon fodder, those guys. It's the costumes, it's the set designs, it's the cinematography. Why would you not be entertained by this film? This is one of those movies that I definitely recommend. If you're gonna watch it anywhere, it's worth the cinematic experience. It's worth spending your money to go check this movie out. This is probably not gonna draw too many children's attention. I know there's another release that's coming out that's probably gonna be more geared towards children, but definitely from teenagers up, this is the movie to go check out. It's done very well. The storytelling's excellent, and there's just nothing too terrible, which I guess isn't really a great way of putting that, nothing too terrible. But there is nothing bad about this movie, and if anything, it's probably one of the better movies of the year. I'll go as far as to say that. Might be a bold statement, but thus far, it's probably one of the best of the year. But what did you guys think about Furiosa? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Disagree with what I'm saying? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, or comment on whether or not you think they should continue the Mad Max franchise. Should they bring Max back? Should they bring back Furiosa? All your thoughts, leave them in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe. It's free, you know, and it really helps us grow. Or like and share this video. We appreciate all the engagement that you've given us thus far. I read all the comments and I try to respond to every single comment. So I appreciate what you guys do. It goes a long way. And you know, if you're ever deciding that you do want to share this video, or if you're even deciding to subscribe, just remember something my friend Max used to tell me, and that's